Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight, we journey into the eerie imagination of Clark Ashton Smith with his tale, The Ninth Skeleton. This version has been carefully reimagined and rewritten to bring you a fresh, suspenseful narration crafted to avoid repetition and breathe new life into a classic horror masterpiece. The sky was a flawless sapphire that April morning when I set out to meet Guinevere. Our secret rendezvous lay on Boulder Ridge, a lonely circle of grass hemmed in by whispering pines and scattered stones, halfway between her family's home in Newcastle and my solitary cabin near Auburn. Guinevere was my betrothed, though her parents had once forbidden our union. Their disapproval forced us into stolen meetings, brief and hidden, each encounter carrying the thrill of defiance. The ridge itself stretched like a jagged spine across the land, littered with volcanic rock and twisted trees. Orchards clung to its slopes, but its summit remained untamed, soil too thin for farming, beauty too wild for cultivation. The crooked pines and stunted oaks gave the place a strange, almost foreign charm, as though carved from some forgotten landscape. From my cabin, the path to our meeting ground was scarcely 2 miles, and I knew every bend and hollow of that terrain. Born in its shadow, I had walked it all my life. Never would I have believed I could lose my way upon it. Yet on that morning, the thought no longer seemed laughable. It was a day made for lovers. Bees droned among the clover, and the air was heavy with the intoxicating perfume of ceanothus blossoms. Spring flowers flared across the fields, violets, poppies, hyacinths, stars of the woodland, painting the grass in shimmering hues. Between the emerald buckeyes and the dark oaks, I glimpsed the distant Sierras, white with snow, and the faint blue outline of the Coast Range beyond the lilac haze of the Sacramento Valley. Following a faint trail, I pressed onward, weaving between the boulders that rose like silent sentinels across the open ground. My thoughts were consumed by Guinevere, and I paid little heed to the spring beauty around me. Halfway to our meeting place, I noticed the light falter. Expecting a passing April cloud, I looked up, only to find the sky transformed. The bright azure had curdled into a sinister brown, and the sun glowed within it like a vast, smoldering ember. A strange unease pressed in. The landscape itself seemed altered, unfamiliar. I halted, bewildered, and realized with a shock that I had lost my way. The pines flanking me were not the ones I knew. They loomed taller, twisted into grotesque shapes, their roots writhing like serpents from a barren soil where even grass struggled to grow. Around me, boulders rose like ancient monoliths, their nightmare forms defying reason. I tried to laugh it off as a dream, yet the bewilderment was too sharp, too real. Searching for a landmark, I found none. Instead, a broader path appeared, winding through the trees. Its surface was coated in a thick gray dust, and as I walked, I saw footprints etched into it. Elongated, impossibly thin, with 5 distinct toes. They were too strange, too attenuated to belong to any human. A chill ran through me. Something in their unnatural shape made my skin crawl. Later, I would wonder why I had not recognized them for what they were. But in that moment, I felt only a vague, gnawing dread, an indefinable trepidation that clung to me with every step forward. As I moved deeper into the forest, the pines grew more grotesque with every step. Their twisted trunks and clawing roots seemed alive. Some leered like hags, others crouched like obscene gargoyles, and still more writhed in endless torment or shook with a mad, infernal laughter. Above me, the sky continued its slow decay.
The dull brown I had first noticed deepened into a funereal purple, and within it the sun smoldered like a blood-soaked moon. That unnatural hue drenched the land, staining every tree and shadow. Only the rocks grew paler, their shapes resembling tombstones and monuments to forgotten dead. The trail itself was stripped of spring's green. The earth was blotched with algae and lichens the color of corroded copper, and here and there sprouted fungi, sickly white stems crowned with black drooping heads that nodded as if in loathsome mockery.
The darkness thickened until a world seemed caught in the twilight of a dying sun. No bird sang, no insect stirred, no wind whispered through the branches. It was a silence too vast, too absolute, like the silence of the void itself. The trees pressed closer, then thinned, and I stepped into a circular clearing. There, the boulders revealed their true nature, colossal headstones, funeral monuments worn by ages beyond reckoning. The few markings that remained were carved in no language I knew. Around them, the ancient pines bent under the same burden of centuries. The weight of their antiquity pressed upon me, filling me with a dread that was both awe and terror. The sight of those strange, elongated footprints circling the headstones did nothing to ease my mind. They seemed to depart from each monument only to return again, as if bound to some ritual path. Then, at last, another sound broke the suffocating silence. From behind me came a faint, sinister rattling among the trees. I froze, listening while grotesque fears swarmed through my mind like a witch's sabbat. What emerged was no less monstrous than my imaginings. Out of the shadows glimmered a pale shape, a human skeleton cradling in its arms the tiny bones of an infant. With a dreadful calm, it glided past me, its steps smooth and effortless, carrying itself with a ghastly grace that was almost feminine. I watched, transfixed, as it drifted among the monuments and vanished into the dark pines beyond. No sooner had it gone than another appeared, identical in form, bearing its own infant skeleton. It moved with the same loathsome elegance, following the path of the first. Terror beyond terror seized me. My body felt crushed beneath the weight of nightmare. One after another they came, skeleton after skeleton, each carrying its pitiful burden, each moving with that same macabre lightness. I counted them as they passed, 8 in all. Now I understood the source of those bizarre footprints that had haunted me. And when the 8th had disappeared into the gloom, my eyes were drawn irresistibly to a nearby headstone. Beside it yawned a grave, freshly opened, its dark mouth gaping in the soil. At my elbow came a faint rattling, and I felt the tug of bone against cloth. A skeleton stood beside me, different from the others, for it carried no infant. Its lipless grin leered with a ghastly familiarity, and once more its fleshless fingers plucked at my sleeve, urging me toward the gaping grave. Its teeth clicked together, as though struggling to form words from the silence of the tomb. My mind reeled, terror spun me into a vortex of blackness, and I felt myself falling endlessly into a void where the clutch of those skeletal fingers dragged me down beyond thought, beyond breath, beyond consciousness. When awareness returned, the nightmare had dissolved. Guinevere was at my side, her hand firm on my arm, her face etched with concern. I stood once more among the boulders of our chosen meeting place, the world bright and ordinary around me. "What on earth is the matter, Herbert?" she asked, her voice anxious.
You were standing here in a trance, as if you neither saw nor heard me, and when I touched your arm, I thought you were about to faint."
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.